So, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real. Guess what, everybody? We're back to having real conversations in interviews with people. Teresa Coffey is my guest today. And for a long time, like maybe a year, Teresa, I went without interviewing somebody. I used to do that a lot. And I love having interviews with people. But when I got a job, I put up air quotes for those of you who can't see, I got a job. And when I got a job, I kind of didn't have time. And now that I don't have a job again, I have more time to connect with real human beings in this podcast. And so I am really grateful that you agreed, Teresa, to be my first guest back in Circle Up and Get Real. So welcome.
Well, I'm so honored that I could be like on even to make the list, but to be the first on your way back. So no, it's been awesome.
That's awesome. So for those of you who don't know, Teresa and I met, we were trying to decide how many years, but then I just said, let's not tell how many years. A lot of years ago, when I used to go to a health club, when I used to go to a gym, which I haven't been to a gym for a long time either. But Teresa and I met at a gym. Were you the owner of that gym, Teresa?
Yeah.
So Creative Health was the gym in Fargo, and I don't even really remember the details. I just remember knowing you.
Yeah.
So I don't remember meeting you.
It's so interesting because I feel like you've been one of those people in my life that I've been like following, because you're like the person that, want to hang out with. So when you guys think about who are like the 5 greatest people in your life, because you're going to be a part of that, Jody's always been like in my list of that. So yeah, it was so long ago. And it's so funny because I also currently own a different gym, and my daughter is hilarious. First of all, she's just the funniest human being in my life. And so somebody said, gosh, has your mom ever owned a gym before? And she's like, yeah, she did. And then she didn't. And now she does. So I don't know why she would do that again. So, because I'm also the person who owns a beautiful gym in town, but also works out at home. So, there's that.
So Teresa, you are a serial entrepreneur. Let's just call it that. But you're not even really a serial entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur who's stuck with your one avenue for a long time. So you own gyms, but you also are one of the leaders in Herbalife. Can I say that? Like one of the leaders in the whole organization?
I am, and again, there should be probably some type of a disclaimer, but yeah, the top 1% in the company. So yeah.
And you've been doing that for how long?
Do you
want to say now? Do you want to say years?
I don't really want to say years at all. So, but yeah, no, it's been 11 years, and again, it's interesting because I feel like I've always been in the health and wellness industry of some type. And so really stepping into this Herbalife space, just was a supernatural fit for me for sure.
So you have many do I call them shake shops? I know that sounds really bad to say, but a place you can get a shake. You have a lot of them.
Definitely call them shake shops. Some people call them the company calls them nutrition clubs because they're, spaces of nutrition, but most people call them a shake shop. People go in and get a shake tea aloe or some type of I call it a fancy tea or a protein coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. So if I might have coffee, it should have protein in it. So, and again, I think that for a lot of people, just educating themselves as to, are you a coffee or a tea drinker? What are you thinking? What does lunch look like for you? Or like forever, I was a breakfast skipper. Like I wasn't going to take time to eat breakfast, or I didn't want to take in the calories because that didn't make any sense to me. So, and a lot of that just came from, for a lot of years, and I feel like, Jody, you've watched me through a little bit of my transition. I've, for a lot of years, I weighed about 375 pounds, and then I would, lose 100 to 200 pounds, and then I would gain it all back. And, so it's just when people say, when they talk about yo-yo dieting, I would say like I'm the queen of yo-yo dieting. If I can become really super focused and lose 100 pounds, and then I can really become unfocused and gain it right back. So, so one thing that I love about the shake shop piece is it keeps me really consistent with what I'm doing. For me, I just was looking for healthy fast food. I'm just looking for something that's going to provide me, I'm looking for 24 grams of protein. I'm looking for, something within that 200 to 300 calorie range. It's going to give me some good energy, throughout the day. So yeah, I thought one would be a great idea. And I didn't realize how many people around the country would say, oh, we should put one there. We should put one there. We should put one there. And now it's a thing. So yeah.
So did you start in Fargo with the actual shops, or was it someplace else?
No, I started here in Fargo on 25th Street. Shout out to 25th Street Fusion out there. So that's where like life started for me. I always say it's my home space. My good friend Maggie Mosey, has taken that over since then. But it's where I keep all my stuff still. So I feel like now it's just storage for me. But yeah.
And you've grown. I know now you're speaking well, you were before. Let's talk pre-COVID and then post.
Pre-COVID.
Let's go to pre-COVID for a second. You were gone all the time. So
Well, I was, yeah. I mean, really, just yeah, training. I love the training part of it. I love being the one thing that I really love about what I do is I can help inspire somebody to figure out what inspires them. And for so many people that are wanting just to own their own life and do their own thing, I've really found that the Shake Shop has been, or the Nutrition Club piece, you don't need a ton of business experience or a lot of money to get started. You just need a determination and drive to be able to do that. So really, I found myself traveling around the country, helping people to be able to do that. So, because I also feel like in this type of a business, for sure, you're only as successful as you help grow your team to be. So for me, anyhow, being, hands-on with my team has always been really important to be able to do.
yeah. So you're hands-on with the team of people who have their own shops, and you do that. How many do you have in Fargo?
I'm not going to give you a number because it changes all the
Okay.
time. But
Okay.
there's a lot of them in Fargo.
A
So
lot of them in Fargo. So it's
yeah.
easy in Fargo, at least, to get almost literally hands-on with the people. But you have shops in other places or
I
nutrition
do,
clubs.
but I also have leadership in those other areas, whether it's, the western part of the state, like out in Bismarck, or if it's in, Phoenix, or, I mean, wherever that happens to be. So yeah. Yeah.
So then the actual running of the shops is one part of it, but then you said you are looking for leaders, and you're delivering content on stages to people all over as well. Is that true? I know this is again pre-COVID.
Right. No. And a lot of, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, again, pre-COVID, I've done one event since COVID started,
Yeah.
just like a little bit ago. So I feel like I'm really excited to get it back on the road, get back on the stage for sure. But yeah, I mean, really it's those people that are looking to transition. They're looking for something different in their life. And I think, and the one thing I can tell you since COVID started, my business has gotten far larger than it ever would have without COVID. So I know that there's a lot of not so great things about COVID, but I will tell you from in my business, it's my business is growing further and more than I ever would have imagined that it would have been with or without COVID. Couple of things. People are looking for something healthy. They're just looking for a healthy choice. They're still looking for that energy drink, but if they can get a clean energy drink, better. They're looking for, some type of a healthy meal replacement of something, or they're just looking for healthy fast food. Literally, it's just healthy fast food, whatever that happens to be. But even more so, people are, for lack of a better term, I may say, looking for a side hustle. They're looking to make a little bit of extra money because maybe their company has downsized or expenses have gotten different. Or for a lot of people that are having to homeschool children, that's so much more expensive because now I have all of my children at home that I'm feeding and taking care of all day, or I can't go to work because I have a 7-year-old that needs to have me at home. So it's all of these things that have really come into play for that person who really wants to, either open their own nutrition club and do that, a small brick and mortar space, or they're just taking on and they're doing a home-based business, which is an incredible space to be able to do that too. But, right now there's so many other businesses. I look at, like, I've got a handful of like boutiques that just can't make it. They just can't. Or you think of like all of these smaller restaurants or coffee shops or delis or different things like that just, they haven't been able to make the closure. And what we've done is, I mean, really establishing ourselves as an essential business, being able to stay open during COVID. Some of those businesses that weren't able to stay open have just said, help me just change my concept of what I'm doing. I mean, we have a lady out in Boston who has a meal prep business and just couldn't keep up with it. I mean, in that business, the waste of food is so high. So I had another one of our leaders from here fly out there and help turn her meal prep business into a nutrition club. And now she's thriving.
Wow.
So because the thing of it is just because her business wasn't working and the state wasn't letting her run business as she wanted to, she still had a lease with the landlord. She still had an obligation to everything that she took on in that business. So if I can just help her and show her a different concept to be able to change her business and make some money, she was definitely that transition person who's just saying, hey, I just need a little bit of change, in what that is. So yeah.
So that's such an interesting way to think about COVID. For one thing, we were forced to pivot on a dime. The whole world, the whole universe shut down, and those who were prepared. I guess you're never really prepared for that much change, but those who were of a mind that would allow them to pivot, it sounds like, are the ones who are having the success now. And you're one of those because you've been doing a lot of work on yourself since I've known you. And by the way, I didn't know you as someone who weighed 300 and some pounds. I didn't know you then. You weren't ever that heavy. So there was something in you that you figured something out, because that's a lot of work to take off that much weight.
I mean, it's really interesting because I even look at, so like when I go out and I train and I do like before and after pictures of, like this is where I was at this weight and this is where I am today. And just, the work that I've done. I mean, and I will tell you, 92% of that is mental, because you don't just wake up one day and say, okay, this is now what I'm going to do. But again, I think it's mindset. And I think that people don't really understand the mindset of something. And when I think about, like, I look at that photo and I always say it's so funny because as I'm saying it, there's this huge photo behind me of, this 370-pound woman. And I always ask people, what do you think I saw when I looked at that woman? And most people are, somebody sad, somebody broken, somebody like, really obese and, she can't move around much and stuff. And guys, this was like back in like, the early 80s. So picture this, my hair is like this big. And so my response always is, God, didn't I have the best hair? Like my hair was fantastic back then because I really didn't see all of that brokenness. What I saw was somebody who just knew that there was going to be something better out there. Like, I get accused every once in a while living like, with, buckets of, baskets of puppies and rainbows. And I'm like, I think that's always been my mindset. Like, it's just going to be okay. But I know if it's going to be up to me. And I need to figure that out and be really good with that.
It's so funny because, by the way, everybody who's listening, Teresa and I had a really long coffee meeting last week, and we talked about a lot of things. And we talked about where we have each come from. I mean, going back to the real acronym of this podcast, radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused. We kind of dug in our coffee meeting this last week and said, so who were you in 6th grade? And who did you know yourself to be? And that was fascinating to me, that you have always known you're going to be successful. You were the first. You told me, I'm the first one to do the speech. I want to be first on the stage. And I was completely the opposite. When I was younger, I was so afraid of doing it wrong. I had so little self-confidence, and you just saw yourself. You didn't see yourself as a 300 and some pound woman. You saw yourself as good hair. And I love that about you.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it is, even as a child, I love that conversation that we had, I mean, like if there's anyone to present, like in a science project, like I want to go first, like I want to do that. And I just, I guess I've always just felt like as people, there's such an opportunity to really show up and be anything you want to be, and really, but you have to. And the one thing that I've really learned in the last, couple of years is you have to show up with who you are, though. You can't show up really, I mean, and again, for me, really living, I don't want to say a fake life, but I'm going to say a real unauthentic life to who I really am was really what I did for about 30 years. I mean, I would show up one way, but not really that person who I am. And really in the last couple of years, really digging deep into who I am, and that person is really okay too. I mean, it's okay to be her too. She's maybe not that, 6th grader that wants to volunteer for everything. And mostly because I just want to go first because I don't want to be compared to anyone else, so maybe when you think of a little bit of lack of confidence, I think a little bit of that was, okay, I don't want you to compare me to anybody else. So I'm going first. Like I'm going to be,
you got the big ding on that one on your notification. So I think that everybody, that's kind of like when the angel gets its.
I don't know how to shut that off either, by the way.
No, it's so fun. So if you get notifications during this podcast, just know we're recording this live, and that's what happens. I love that when the angel gets its wings, it's because, hey, somebody did something. But you just said something that was really important, and you got the ding, right? It's recognizing who you really are. And I think as a 6th grader, we don't know who we really are. It's in hindsight that we can see things that we couldn't see in the moment. And you've had some real adventures in the last couple of years that have forced you maybe to look in the mirror a little more than you were before when you were just looking at your hair, maybe. And I think for a lot of people, getting authentic, that's the A of the real acronym, getting authentic is not something we do. We don't look in the mirror. We'd much rather look out the window. And I don't remember exactly what it was, the impetus you had, and you might want to share your story here that caused you to say, my life is going to be mine now. So would you tell that story?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and I think that, again, when you see some people that would appear to have their lives together, I think that, always know that there's another piece of everything that you kind of have, going on. And
well, I think before you get into it, I think what we do typically is we compare our insides, which we know really well, to other people's outsides. What they look like on the outside is how we compare ourselves. And then we think, I'll never measure up. Look at how together she is. Look at how confident she is, or look at how great the car is that they're driving, or whatever it might be. We don't know what's really going on. You're right. So there's always some other piece to it. So when I compare my insides to your outsides, there's nothing authentic in any of that, because even my insides, I'm probably downplaying. I'm probably not owning my greatness. I'm comparing it to something that might not even be the truth.
Right. Well, and I think, it's really important to just remember different moments in your life that make you pause and say, okay, I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to do this. Or there's just moments that, you can go with the flow and just be a part of what that is until every single thing in you as a person says no. That's like, I'm not letting that happen to me anymore. So I'll share two things. One is, never forget, in my whole life, I was young and I was working for a company, and I just remember thinking, they want to pay me, X amount of dollars, but I just know I'm worth so much more than that. Like, I just know that I don't want to work for that amount of money. And so I wanted to work on a commission, and they were like, oh, that's crazy. And I'm like, no, sign me up for that. Like, I want to work based on a percentage of what I bring in. And if I can elevate these sales, I just want to be paid on a percentage. And if I suck and I don't do it, then don't pay me. And I worked my butt off, and I got the business to a point that was really awesome. The owner was pretty uninvolved in it. And so at the time, I'm just working with this guy who's the controller of the business. And he literally comes in one day and says, Teresa, you're doing great, but we just need to change the structure. And like, this would never happen today, because like the company would be in some type of lawsuit. But he said to me, no woman should make that kind of money.
What?
And I was like, what? I thought I worked my butt off for this. What are you talking about? And I just said, I got to go. Like, there was nothing about me that was staying in that.
Yeah.
It was just that decision of, I have to go. And, and really, I lived, I just, that in that moment, I knew every single thing I did was going to be to build my own life, because what I was doing at that point was building somebody else's business.
Right. For sure.
And so when you think about it from an entrepreneurial standpoint, that was the moment in time that everything just clicked for me. Like, I always knew that I wanted to own my own business. I always knew that I would do something. I always felt like I wanted to impact the world somehow greatly. But it was in that very moment that I was like, now it starts today. Like, I'm never going to let somebody dictate my worthiness, how I'm impacting, the amount of money I'm going to make, what is that? And that I really took that on. And that was, again, 35 years ago, so it was a hot minute ago. But, when I look at all of that stuff that has happened, but then I went on to, and again, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, honestly, guys, I was in a relationship for 35 years. I was married for 35 years to a complete narcissist. And I'd never heard the term narcissist before. So I didn't really know what that even meant until I started researching it. And I was like, oh, it's my whole life. It's my whole life. Yet, as I had an opportunity to train and do the things that I love to do, it was just me keeping my two worlds really private and really, I mean, more unreal than you could ever imagine. So when you talk about, being real and authentic and things like that, like, Jody, I remember the first time that, I heard about your course and you came out with, just that whole piece. It landed so hard on me, like, so much what I need. Like, there's nothing about who I am that's real as me as a whole, because I'm two different people. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Mhm.
really living two very different lives, to the point where I didn't even want any of these people to know this part of my life. Or, it's like your whole worlds collide. Like your worlds cannot collide. I feel like I'm a Seinfeld episode, but your worlds cannot collide. And I knew that would be a really hard piece for me. But I mean, so yeah. And again, I just one day decided, and it's just making a decision, but it's being pushed to that breaking point of, I believe more in myself than I believe in what I'm being told. I believe more in myself than what you're trying to make me believe about myself. And I literally just picked up my little dog and said, I'm just going to rebuild. I'm just going to start over, and I'm going to be okay. I don't have any idea how that's going to be, but again, I have the most amazing family. Again, I'll talk about my daughter again. She's awesome and great and amazing. And it was just that love and support that made me say, I can do this. Like, I'm going to be okay. And I've got like $9 and I figure it out, and so it's going to be good. But again, you don't know what you don't know, but becoming really real with what that is. But it really made me understand, because I had some people, after I had gotten divorced, I changed my name back to my maiden name. And it was so incredible to me how many people reached out to me and said, congratulations on getting married. And I'm like, we've known each other for 30 years. Why would you think that's my situation?
Right.
They just didn't even realize I was married. They were like, oh, we just figured you never talked about it.
Yeah.
So like we just didn't know what your situation is. Like, you never talked about, are you married? Are you not married? What is that? And I thought, how unreal of me is that? Because I'm also in the relationship business. Like, I should be real with this group of people who just congratulated me on getting married. So that was really crazy. So yeah, like almost 2 years ago, I just really said, I need to be one person. Like, I need to be a real, authentic, who am I at the end of the day? And who am I? But who do I want to show up as? Because I want to show up as me, but who am I? Like, I don't know who that is.
Right.
The process has been really, really awesome and amazing. And again, thank you to people like you, Jody, that have come through and said, yeah, like, let's just figure out how what is this hot mess of real over here? Because it's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
That was the ding. You all heard the ding. That's what can happen. I think what I continue to learn is that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And the opposite is true too. When the teacher is ready, the student appears. And so look at who you are in the lives of the people around you, because sometimes you're the student and sometimes you're the teacher. And all it means to be a teacher to me now, as I'm learning this again, is to demonstrate your life, to teach us to demonstrate, because otherwise we're stuck in that old way of teaching and learning, which is, I've learned a term, imposed learning, which means the way we've been taught all our lives in school as little kids by parents, best meaning parents, right? And teachers and churches, this is the way it is. There's no question about the way it is. 2 + 2 = 4. You will learn our way. And I know even during COVID now, when I have friends who have kids who have had to learn new math, or, we're not teaching them cursive anymore, and all these kinds of weird things that are happening in the way people are learning, we either resist it or we embrace it, which creates a different experience with learning.
Right.
And so all of that, I say to all of us listening, the way we've been learning or the way we've learned in the past doesn't have to be the way we learn in the future, which is why the L of real is learning focused. It doesn't have to be imposed learning. It can be experiential learning. It can be demonstrating. You're demonstrating, Teresa, such a different you now that you know who that is.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it comes down back to that learning piece. Like, I just always knew, and this is just for me from a religious standpoint, you don't get divorced, so I'm not condoning it or saying, one way or the other, but that was what I was taught is, this is the way it is. This is how it is. And again, not to, put anybody's belief system out there or anything, but I also know that, and that's what kept me there for a long time until I really had a Christian-based therapist tell me, but God doesn't want you to live like this. Like, God has designed you for more than this moment right here. Like you can't keep living like this. And me being the fixer, I just kept thinking, well, I'll just make it better. I'll figure it out. I'll just be better. So then everybody will be better. If I can just be better, I'll just, it'll be better.
Yeah.
How many of us do just try to be better? Well, we can only be ourselves.
Yeah.
And when that really clicked for me is, I mean, I can keep being a better version of myself, but I can't be better for everybody. Like I can't, like somebody's got to pick up their own, cross to bear and carry that themselves.
So true. So much good wisdom here, everybody. And this is what can happen when I go first. You go first, Teresa, with the people around you, me with the people around me. I have to go first. I have to demonstrate in the way I teach, I suppose. You have to demonstrate so that people are noticing your truth. Our good friend Chris, who's been on this podcast many times, Chris Angel, is helping both of us share our stories, right? Live our truth, be authentic with what is for us, because we'll attract who we are, not what we want.
Right.
If I'm only in what I want, I'm never ever stopping in that space, which is my truth.
Right. Well, I think that is the piece that I think most people just don't even understand is you're going to attract who you are right now, in your moment, because no matter who you're trying to be, you can't like out fake yourself.
Right.
That's who you are. Like that's who, I mean, the one thing, I mean, it was the journey of finding out who I am was finding out like, again, who was that sixth grader? Who was that, 6-year-old and what made that person tick? Like what brought that person to right here? And so really, I know we've talked a little bit about the Enneagram and that book, Road Back to You. I mean, it really just talks about, how do you get to you, figure it out,
So many great resources that just sort of show up, when we attract what we need at any, like you said, we are who we are in the moment. Well, it's funny what shows up, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I always give Facebook a little bit of a hard time because I can be thinking about something all of a sudden. I mean, seriously, last night I was thinking about business cards. Like I was talking to somebody about it. Literally, like my Facebook's just flooded with a business card offers. I'm like, what is happening? This is so, but again, to just be like that listener of Facebook, like we should all show up like that. Like just pay attention to the people around us. And help them to find their truth also. I think helps us find our truth.
Oh yes. And I'm learning that somebody needs to start. I've been waiting for permission for so long, and I've been asking people for directions to places they've never been. And then I'm listening to what they're telling me, and I'm like, but that doesn't feel right to me. Well, Jody, stop asking people for permission and for directions to places they've never been. We just have to go first. And then we learn as we go too.
Well, and it's so interesting, the advice, the people we seek advice from. Yeah. Don't ask people to go someplace they've never been, but also don't take somebody's opinion so like the gospel to your soul. If you wouldn't, like, I just believe if I'm not willing to change lives with you, your opinion is not going to make or break my day.
Wow. That's big.
I mean, a couple of the most freeing things on the planet, because I always wanted to make everybody in the world happy, like I'll figure it out. I'll make us all happy. I'll fix us all. It'll be good. And when I really realized like what you think of me and what you say about me really is not my business. Like that's your step. But also if I don't have enough value that I would want to like trade places with you, like I'll live your life. I'm not going to let your opinion of me be soul crushing.
So good. So good.
Because so many people take the opinion of somebody that either they don't know or they don't really even like, and it just like they just can't let it go. It just like it defines them.
So there's a lot of morals to this story that you and I are sharing here, and there are a lot of truth bombs and nuggets of wisdom. If you were to give somebody a snapshot of you right now, if you're just meeting someone for the very first time, and you have to use your words because we're on a podcast and we don't have this won't be visual when it shows up as a podcast. Who is Teresa Coffey?
I would say she's somebody that is looking for the inspiration in herself so that she can inspire others.
Mm.
You know, I mean, I'm that for me, when I think of like my deep personal work is to figure out what inspires me, like where's my point of passion every day, and being really clear with that so that I can help somebody else find theirs.
Mm.
Because I know that if I can surround myself with enough people that are excited about the work that they're doing in the world, and from a really great space of being super authentic to what their great work is.
Mm.
I mean, what a cool way to live. You know, I think about like this great utopia island of just like the great thinkers, you know, I mean, getting like that group of people together and being able to live like that every day would be amazing. So
You're kind of doing that, aren't you? You've designed your life around what you are now during COVID, right? You've had this
yeah.
space and this time to sort of slow down, and we all have. And I know you've been in reinvention mode, and it feels to me like you're doing a pretty good job of developing your own island of utopia.
Do you know, it's been, yeah, and again, super grateful for everything that I have. And you know, it has been, again, as I step back, and there's been some people I've just needed to just say no thank you to, like, okay, but no thank you, like I can't deal with your, I may say nonsense, but it is nonsense, you know. And being able to be really super selective, I think it's no different than, you know, you're going to go to, like, I always say a Las Vegas buffet, which is maybe not a great example of life because maybe not everybody's been to one, but I think that sometimes, you know, it's like a Las Vegas buffet. You're going to stand at the entryway and you're going to be like, okay, well, I know I don't want to start with all the dessert. I want to figure out what are the best pieces that are going to really fuel my body. Like, what are the best pieces of that? And then just put that on my plate. Like, I just want to take that, like, what are some pieces that's going to fuel me? And again, it comes back to, I firmly believe you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around, you know, be selective. And I think that sometimes people, you know, either don't do that or they just gravitate towards the people that are convenient for them or the people that push themselves into your life. You know, again, it's being boundaried. You know, Brene Brown does a great piece on the most joyful people she knows also have the strongest boundaries.
Yeah.
And so when you can hold a boundary, that's when you can really start to hold joy. And without a great boundary, you're not going to have great joy because you're going to be fighting it constantly and being able to do that. So
there's a wisdom nugget right there.
yeah.
Boundaries equal joy.
It's Brene Brown. So for those of you guys who don't know Brene Brown, she's like my soul sister. Like, I feel like every single thing she does is just, yeah. I mean, talk about somebody who, like, that should be on this island. Like, I would hang out with her all day.
Oh, so Brene and Oprah, because Oprah's mine. And
so have you watched much of the stuff they've done together?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, like, how could we get in on all that? So.
I know. It's all there. We have to stop wanting it and just start being it, and we'll start attracting what we truly desire.
I mean, there's part of me that just wants to go, because I know, you know, Renee lives in Texas. What are we doing? Are we going to Texas? Because
let's just show up in Houston someday. Because
I don't know why we wouldn't.
Right? This is what's available. But part of that, we joke about that, but the reality and the truth of that is, if you completely desire that, then you go where you need to go. You take the action that will pull you into that future. You know, I'm referring to what we did an activity last week where we talked about future pull. And future pull is just remembering that inside every single acorn is the promise of an oak tree, if you put that acorn in the place where the oak tree can be born. And inside each of us is that future us is amazing. But if we don't put ourselves in that place where we can thrive, then we're never going to turn into our own version of an oak tree. We can't.
You know, I love that analogy so much, Jody, because it's something, first of all, I mean, maybe just people in this area of the world, but I think everywhere. I mean, that acorn, yeah, I feel like as kids, we used to have buckets of them and none of them would turn into anything. And then you would see all these beautiful trees. Well, they must have turned into something at some point, you know, but it was somebody actually planting that seed. And so when you think about how many of us are just planting seeds, you know, how many of us are just, you know, walking around, you know, whether we're throwing out acorns or we're
we get another ding on that one. This is so good.
You know, throwing out acorns or, you know, I don't know, throwing out pixie dust. It's you know, like, what are you putting out there? but you have to be, proximity is power, I mean, to quote, somebody else, a good Tony Robbins, is proximity is power piece, so what proximity are you into? Where are you at? Where are you going? And sometimes that's not when you can. I mean, because I'm such a, I love to be in a physical space. So like COVID's been really hard for me because I just want to be in your space all day long. But I think though, when you can't be, it's doing something like this where you can be virtually, where you can be eye to eye with somebody. And that's one thing that I think is so powerful too. So, yeah.
And what I've learned during COVID, which is I didn't anticipate learning, when you and I, for those of you who are listening, you don't know that we're recording this on Zoom. So we're actually seeing each other when we're having this conversation. During Zoom or meetings during COVID, I actually am on the exact same page you are. I can look at myself and I can see myself listening to you. And I'm no different than you are. I used to think I'm not good enough to be in the same space with some of the people I was interviewing or people I wanted to be around. But this has caused me to see myself on the same exact place as whoever I'm interviewing or whoever I'm in a meeting with. And I've had conversations like this with people from all over the world during COVID that had nothing else to do during COVID. So they said yes to me on some of my podcast interviews. And some of the people, authors I've admired, Brene Brown hasn't said yes to me yet. I'm not giving up. There could be a possibility. I know, right?
That I need back in.
And Glennon Doyle is another one I want to talk to. And Mel Robbins is another one. And some of these high-powered women who are actually doing the things that I admire, this will happen. And we are no different. We're exactly the same. And we have so much access to the same opportunities to connect through Zoom. We can't say anymore, oh, I live in Fargo, it's cold. Well, so what? Connect with somebody, find somebody else. And we have that opportunity with Zoom. I love it.
No, I do too. And I love, and again, like that list of people that you just mentioned, like how cool to just stay on that, but also to surround yourself with people that know what that list is.
Yeah, exactly.
Like sometimes I'm talking about stuff and people are like, what are you even talking about? I mean, like right away, if you don't know who Brene Brown is, I can't.
Yeah.
I cannot explain her to you because
I know you can't. Exactly. So Teresa, this has been so much fun and we could talk forever and we have, but if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and wanted to learn more about you, how would they do that best?
I communicate great through Facebook Messenger. Like, that's a great one. Either that, or, I mean, I'm going to put my phone number out there, because I'm the person. So I know not everybody does, but I will answer like 92% of my phone calls because I'm just thinking, if you're going to call me, you call me about something. So yeah, 701-373-5500. Always open to having a conversation for sure. So yeah. And I
people to text first.
Yes, for sure. Text me first.
Text first and then see if she's available. And I'll put that in the show notes. So you got her phone number right there.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I love what you're doing here, Jody. And I love that you're coming back with it. And I think that the world just needs more real people. The world needs to really understand that there's so many people looking for their truth and who they are. And I think that there's a lot of people that wake up every day asking themselves, like, who am I actually? And not even who am I actually, but how do I figure that out? Like, what are those next steps? And those are the conversations that I love to have. So yeah, I mean, I would love to have a conversation with, anybody who wants to, how do I get into that next space of what could that be? What does that look like?
Oh, great. And the platform that you're on is a health and nutrition platform. And yet it's not exclusively that, because you said that it's about mindset. And so wanting to have those kinds of conversations that lead to something deeper and broader, I think are exactly why you should connect with Teresa, anybody who's listening.
Well, and I will also say, again, I'm not going to say work with it, because I'm just going to say there's just a lot of people in my life that are transitioning from a job to, okay, I just need to find something I'm passionate about. I'm trying to find something that I really just, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not saying, oh no, I have to go there, but I'm waking up saying, I get to go do this. This is how I may spend my day. I may spend my day exactly how I want to. And I think that for so many people, it's going from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. And people don't understand. People get so hung up in what's the product and service? What's the product and service? Like they just don't know, like, am I going to open a boutique? Am I going to open, what am I going to do with my life? And so the one thing that I will also say is mindset is going to be your biggest key to like making that jump into entrepreneurship. But I think it's also, how are you feeling? How do you feel? So really, the other piece of how's your energy at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Those are actually most of my daily conversations from a wellness coach is how can I just get better energy at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? I need mental focus. Like my focus is lost by the afternoon and I still have clients to see. So yeah, so that is really part of my overall focus is how can I help you guys get focus at the same time? So yeah.
It's so good. You can't give something that you don't have. And then when you give what you do have, you somehow get more of it. It's the most bizarre thing. And that's what I love about abundance mindset.
For sure. So yeah, no.
Thank you so much, my friend. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to having more conversations with you in person and Zoom. Please reach out to Teresa if anything you've heard today sparks something in you. I know, Teresa, you'd probably love to be on other people's podcasts as well because you do this so well. So if you're looking for other podcast guests, Teresa would be a super great one. So
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk again.
Bye.